My name is Cameron Lundberg. I'm joined by my team members, Jacob Sandler being our team leader. We also have Gabby Hernandez, Isis Vidal, Henry Zhang, Samir Ahmed. Eric challenged us with a couple of things for the Denton Town Center. He wanted us to increase sales per square foot and also increase the value. When we were given our site tour and this whole competition kicked off, the economy was in a bit of a different place. So we went through several ideations of what we wanted to do, and we landed on something that we think would be a great idea moving forward during these uncertain times. Next, we're going to have Henry Zhang with site analysis.
So the property is a little under 5 acres, and the shape is slightly irregular. It's sitting on a hill, and it's not within a flood zone, which is really good news. Something interesting we found out was that there was no required setbacks on the front, side, or rear yards, and the maximum height of any building or sign was 100 feet, and there was a maximum coverage of about 90%. It's a mixed-use regional, and we found that clinics are permitted, which is something that is currently being used right now. And there is a major access easement to the property behind us. And for the frontage access and egress, there is a one-way access from I-35. There is a protected egress on Loop 288, and there's a non-protected egress way of Colorado Boulevard. So it's very available. Following up is Samir Ahmed with property analysis.
Thank you so much, Henry. So this is your pretty standard strip mall that was built in the 80s when we had a lot of construction boom. It's about 30 years old. As Henry mentioned, it has a bit of a slightly irregular layout with that access easement bisecting those two buildings. There are 30 spaces in the building with a total of a little bit over 77,000 square feet. Of those, 24 of them are currently leased and 6 of them are vacant, totaling a little over 14,000 square feet. It's in fairly good mechanical condition with an estimated 30-year RUL. Parking is a little tricky. So currently there's no issue. Around lunchtime on certain days, you'll see a peak of about low 90% utilization. However, this will become a greater issue if you were to implement the plans we have laid out for growth. Moving on to the construction of the building. Like I said, it's fairly standard. Red brick, iron railings, glass windows, the interior cement floor and sheetrock. 2 of the vacant units do need insulation. The common areas are in good condition. The elevator had some work done on it recently. It's going to need some more work done on it in the future. The landscaping is the biggest point I'd like to make here, in the fact that there is almost none, and we're going to need to spend a lot of attention on that. I'd like to move it over to Gabby now for her market analysis.
Thank you, Samir. So just diving into the market analysis, as a quick overview, the Dallas retail market added about 1.8 million square feet last year, and ended the year with a 93% occupancy, making this the 7th year in a row where retail occupancy is above 90%, according to the Weitzman annual shopping center report. In the report, neighborhood centers, which is the category Denton Town Center would fall into, are described as unanchored retail centers under 100,000 square feet, ended the year with a 90% occupancy. Comparing to community centers, which are typically anchored retail centers, usually by a grocery store, ended the year with a 94% occupancy rate. Diving into the Denton market, we saw about 70,000 square feet built in 2019. We were also able to gather some current market data from LoopNet. This is just a weighted average. We have a full in-depth report in the appendix, but we were able to compare LoopNet market rates with our current rents charged by Denton Town Center to its tenants, and found that we're pretty much on market for office. We're about $5 above market on retail, and about $2 under for both medical and restaurant. And then we also use that current market rate for potential prices that could be charged for 6 vacant units. Moving on to comparable properties, the first one is actually Denton Town Center, as it was actually recently sold in May of 2018. Second property was sold early 2020, and the third property was sold in late 2018. We use these properties to compare the as-is unimproved value that we will later discuss that we were able to determine of Denton Town Center. Moving on, we do have a couple demographic key points to make. Denton population from a 1 mile, 3 mile, and 5 mile radius from Denton Town Center is expected to grow at about an average of 12% over the next 5 years. There's an estimated population density of 2.1 and an average age of 30 years old within that same 5 mile radius. The average household income is about $90,000, and about 57% of the households within that 5 mile radius are making above $50,000 a year. And this is actually estimated to grow to 62% by the year 2024. With that, I'll pass along to Jacob, who will dive a little into the Denton Town Plan for 2030.
Thank you, Gabby. One of the first things we wanted to look at was what the development area of Denton was planning to do for its own area. And we noticed that with 4 of their models, these 3 actually projected strong growth in the area that houses Denton Town Center, as well as the Golden Triangle Mall. With each of these, they are different projection models that all show growth in our area, which is very good for us going forward, especially over the next 10 years. Next, we noticed that they are talking about designating our specific crossroads of 288 and 35 a potential branding station, which we'll get into in just a little bit, as well as I-35 as a potential corridor focus area. Next, Golden Triangle Mall, which is across the street, is considered for a potential center focus area. With all of these, Denton is planning to invest heavily in the areas to revitalize and drive business towards these companies. Next, we looked at the character of Denton, which is also a central area of the Denton Plan 2030. Denton is wanting to focus on their unique and authentic feel that focuses on a Texas heritage, as well as providing for the community services that they need. Next, we can see a word map of potential objects that the Denton Plan has found to be very important going forward in future endeavors. We feel that the brand as is now for Denton Town Center and what will become will strongly enforce these and become a synergy for branding station designation. Next, we also noticed that Denton County has a feature of free murals and has a mapping system within their county website to show all murals in the area, who does them, who they're connected with, and anything of that sort. We plan to leverage this later as well. One of our future tenants, Trader Joe's, strongly believes their store is their brand, and that is why they do a lot of the practices that they have. We feel this will be further enforced by our building, which can further strengthen their brand in our area. Next, Denton's very own concept of branding stations enforces the Denton brand, which is stated within the Denton Plan 2030. We wanted to look at short-term things that we could fix immediately that would have a great impact on both the property and improvements. We noticed navigating to it on the first day that the map pen was improperly placed and was actually navigating you to the property behind us, which does not help our community at all. On day 1, sitting at Jason's Deli, we all worked together, as you can see in this video, of fixing where the map pen drops so that people can navigate properly to the location. Only days after implementing these requests with Google and Apple, we're able to get the map pin properly placed. And now upon further navigations, as the pictures show, you can see that navigation takes you to the front of the building where it gives you the most impactful access to the shopping center. The next thing we noticed was road safety is an issue with the access easement through the middle of the property, as there's no current pedestrian crossing, causing you to have to walk across the expanse between building to building and across the access easement, which is at an incline. This does provide limited visibility coming over the top property, which could be a dangerous issue. We recommend installing speed bumps, adding caution signs, and striping a crosswalk between the buildings. This would reduce the risk and promote cross-property traffic, allowing more customers to shop at both of the buildings. Infrastructure is something that we notice continually pop up within the P&L. Over $100,000 was spent in repairs in third quarter 2019 within just 3 categories. We feel that this is definitely a savings that we should look at. Recurring issues from water penetration in the elevator shafts, as well as a few plumbing issues, would have caused significant spending in the past. By using an allowable remediation cost of $55,000, we definitely feel that we'd be able to resolve all of these issues. It is estimated that to build a full elevator shaft and labor is about $20,000 per elevator. We don't think that full replacement would be required. However, allowing for the worst case scenario would allow us to fully remediate the problem and have reserves as well for other problems. If anything remains, we are able to use that or save it. Next, we wanted to repair the clock base for $1,500, as we feel that the clock has a very rustic feel that jives with the 1980s building, as well as what we're wanting to go forward with the branding station. This would definitely further our brand. Next, we noticed that the online presence of the shopping center is lacking, as there is none. Navigating from Google Maps, if you go to the actual website link that is provided, it takes to Crest Commercial, which only offers their services as a list, but does not actually speak of the property itself. You navigate towards the property section, assuming that Denton Town Center is listed. However, it is not. Neither is a direct link, nor is it listed within the property section of the website. This is definitely a problem as we're trying to drive traffic to us. We'll hear from Samir on how our new branding works.
Thank you, Jacob. Yeah, so jumping off of online branding, to create a presence for the center, both online and in person, you need to completely revitalize the visual guidelines for the center, as well as implement a new logo. So we've chosen the Crossroads as the new name for Denton Town Center. And we've shifted Denton Town Center to kind of the subheading. We chose the Crossroads because it sits at the crossroads of 35 and 288. As you can see, we've come up with a complete color guide. As well as a font specimen, as well as a font recommendation for tenants to use, as we plan to implement a uniform logo design for all tenants. We toyed around with the idea of the bridge in an earlier ideation of our plan when it was more wellness oriented, but in our current state, we believe the Crossroads is the way to go. And so all of this really draws back to, having an authentic character for the center, drawing back on the North Texas heritage with the colors, and really connecting with the Denton brand. Moving on to the medium-term plan, we would like to talk about, implementing the cohesive landscaping, which Cameron will touch on, installing pylon signage, which Isis will touch on, and reaching full tenancy. And we'll talk a little bit about those tenants as well. So moving on to landscaping, I'd like to toss it over to Cameron.
Thank you, Samir. So as of 2019 in the budget, you had 5 landscaping line items, which totaled $35,000. You can see from the pictures here that's what the $35,000 is currently getting you. It's not a really great look. You do have large gaps in foliage and spaces with nothing but dirt in them, and it can distract your customers. When it rains heavily, you can have soil washout, which is very messy, and you have to pay somebody to go and clean that, which is more time and more money. Lastly, it's not very eco-friendly. The Greenbelt uses a lot of water. So what we were recommending moving forward is to adopt a zero-scaping strategy. We estimate material costs to be $2 per square foot based off of our research. And so total estimated material cost being 32 grand. This will create a more uniform, aesthetically pleasing look that is clean, replacing a lot of that soil with gravel and rocks, drought-tolerant plants, better root system to secure your soil. Lastly, it is more eco-friendly. Advocates suggest that you could have 60% water savings moving forward. Lastly, we Discuss the trees. Originally, we thought it would be a good idea to just get rid of the few trees that you do have altogether, as they are kind of erratically placed, not in a uniform manner. But after speaking with the city, it turns out that you cannot. So our long-term plan would be, and really it's an option, it's not something that you have to do, would be to install equivalent sized trees in a uniform manner. We estimate, based off of locally sourced trees, that that'll cost you $470 per tree, total cost before labor being $15,000. Now we're going to move on to Isis, who will talk to us about pylon signage.
Thank you, Cameron. So another thing that we noticed was that there was no pylon signage that identified Denton Town Center. Our focus right now is to increase traffic in order to bring more revenue to the tenants. We need traffic, but making our retail store visible to everyone that drives on Loop 288 and I-35. Please keep in mind that right now we have 160,452 vehicles per day that drive on I-35, and we have 49,634 vehicles per day that drive on Loop 288. So how would you benefit from this pylon signage? By adding a signage, it will increase the traffic and attention to the business. It will also give us a proper signage, will identify the top businesses in the mall, and it will also help bring passerby customers. But more important, proper signage will give brand power to the strip mall, which is something that we're looking for. And of course, the businesses as well. Now I'm going to go ahead and pass it on to Samir, who's going to be giving us more information about full leasing.
Thank you, Isis. As we mentioned before, we'd like to bring ourselves up to full occupancy. So we've identified a couple of key tenants that could help us in that. So our flagship anchor tenant, as Jacob mentioned previously, is going to be Trader Joe's. We've identified an upstairs and downstairs space for this, comprising a little over 9,000 square feet. Next, we have Floyd's Barbershop. This is going to be in the other building, and it's going to be a little under 4,000 square feet. In the small 1,000 square feet place we have left, we've decided to make it an amenity and put lockers in there. Next, I'm going to move it on to Jacob to talk about why Trader Joe's.
So why Trader Joe's should want the Crossroads? All of our demographics align with the things that they are most looking for in a location. Next, they love unique spaces. They even have a website dedicated to hosting and showcasing some of their most unique locations across the US. Definitely, the Denton Town Center has that with the Crossroads. High population density is also offered within a 5-mile radius, and Trader Joe's is known to draw from a wider range than most, as it is a unique brand offering a niche product. The high median household income is $86,000 for Denton County as a whole, as well as $90,000 in a closer range for 5 miles. It is also near universities, which is very important, as the original founding concept of Trader Joe's was to serve overeducated and underpaid people. UNT and TW are both within 3 miles of this location. Next, they care about having a smaller footprint between 8,000 and 10,000 square feet. We're offering them 9,000, just over 9,000. Also, a hallmark of Trader Joe's, as any of you shopping there, is they love for parking, and it's actually by design for them, which we can provide. Next, high visibility. As you can see in this picture, the entire side could be painted by Trader Joe's to feature one of their hallmark murals. This would also give us extra weight to become a branding station and be included within the mural map that Denton hosts. This is also highly visible from I-35, which would be a great opportunity for us to gain extra notoriety. Why we should want them. High sales per square foot was one of the hallmarks of this case, and Trader Joe's is able to offer $1,500 to $2,000 per square foot. Also, this is double what Whole Foods is able to generate by selling similar products, and triple what typical retailers are able to provide. No debt is one of the most important things to Trader Joe's capital stack and reduces the default risk for us, especially in the current market situation. Brand recognition, who doesn't already know and love Trader Joe's? Frequent foot traffic is another important thing for us to get, as it increases tenant sales to other locations. The murals, as already mentioned, would be featured within both all of our walls and within Trader Joe's, and be able to be featured within Denton Map. We'll hear from Samir as to why Floyd's 99.
Thank you, Jacob. Floyd's 99 has a very strong presence in Dallas with 13 stores, the DFW area, but there's not a single store in Denton yet. It targets mainly young professionals and college-aged men, and it would be the only male-centered shop in our center. As you know, we have UNT, so a big population of young professionals in Denton, so we'd have a great demographic to pick from. There is another hair place in the center. It's called Envy Salon Suites, but we'd have the opportunity to open before them, and we feel that they'd be targeting completely different demographics. The co-founder of Floyd said that their shops exude a fun, edgy, and genuine vibe, and I can't think of 3 words that describe not only the Crossroads, but also Denton as a whole better. Moving on to the small 1,000 square foot space, we debated tenants that could generate revenue and drive value, but we couldn't really think of any that the center didn't already have. So for example, like a tailor. We decided that it would much better be spent on amenities. So we decided to put lockers in that space, like an Amazon locker. When someone visits these lockers, it's called a micro visit, and it increases foot traffic to the other stores. So if you can imagine picking up an Amazon package on your way home from work and stopping by Trader Joe's to get some eggs on the way home. There's no overhead costs in this. All you need is a functioning outlet, which the space has plenty of. Amazon will come in and provide the lockers, they'll provide the maintenance, the overhead. The other side of the wall would be used as a community bulletin board. You'd be advertising other shops, promotions, discounts, deals for people, the customers to see. I'd like to move it on to Gabby now for the as-is valuation.
Thank you, Samir. So the valuation of Denton Town Center as is, with its current occupancy of about 82%, is estimated to be $14,676,000. We derived this using a cap rate of 7.6%. We got this cap rate from the Henry S. Miller investment report for 2019. This price takes into account the infrastructure issues with the center and the low occupancy rate that is due to lack of effective branding, which limits possible tenants' enthusiasm for moving into the building. We've discussed our short-term and medium-term long-term plans and goals to get the building up to full leasing and increase sales per square foot and therefore the overall value. So this is just a breakdown of the timeline and the estimated costs that it will take to complete each of these six tasks. Beginning with the crosswalk and pedestrian signs, as Jacob touched on, it's not just a safety issue, but also help increase shoppability between both buildings. Infrastructure remediation, we've allotted $55,000, 40 of which will go to elevator maintenance and repair, and about 15,000 would go to water damage and plumbing issues that were noted in the case study. Clock face repair, that was briefly touched on as well, is estimated to be about $1,500. We also plan to implement the branding strategy and have allotted $40,000 over 3 years for local tenants to increase signage. Landscaping, again, Cameron talked on, $32,000, and pylon sign, which was something that was requested by Eric to include with the presentation, and this is the estimated cost we came up with. Taking this into account, Jacob will talk about the improved value of the Denton Town Center.
Thank you, Gabby. We wanted to focus on a conservative options for the market leasing, especially with ramp up. So there's about an 8-month between leasings, as well as we took the market rates we were able to get from LoopNet to account for this. With this value matrix, you can see a 2% for the cap rate gap on the resale value, anywhere from 21 million down to 16 million. 7.61 is what Henry S. Miller recommended, but with the branding station, the extra growth, Trader Joe's typically generating a 5% cap rate, we do think we can push it closer to the 6.61 or even the 7.11%, which would result in a 19.6 million valuation or $21.1 million valuation on a resale. This is over a 10-year hold, and we think this would be a great opportunity to invest. Cameron will wrap it up.
Judges, thank you again very much for your time. And with respect to that, we would like to move forward to Q&A.